In this example, we're going to graph a linear inequality and shade the solution. There are different ways to graph lines. One technique is to use the y-intercept and slope. Another technique is to set up a table of coordinates. And that's how we will graph our inequality. I'll set up a table, x in one column, y in the other, and I'll select some arbitrary values for x. It's good to keep the values small. There's no use making extra work for yourself. So pick 3 coordinates, 2 or 3, that are fairly small numbers, easy to work with. I like to choose -1, 0, and 1 when possible. Now what I'll do is I'll substitute -1, 0, and 1 into my original equation respectively and solve for y each time. First, I'll take -2 times -1, replacing x with that value, -1, minus y is greater than 1. To solve for y, -2 times -1 equals +2, minus y is greater than 1. Now I'll use inverse operations to subtract 2 from both sides. That gives me -y is greater than 1 minus 2, or -y is greater than -1. Finally, to solve for y, I need to distribute the negative sign through the equation. I'll do that by dividing -1 through each term. Now this is an important step. When you're working with inequalities and you divide by a negative coefficient, the direction of your inequality changes or flips. So when I divide a -1 from both sides, I end up with y is less than +1. See how the direction of my inequality changed. So now over here in the y column, I put 1. Then I repeat the process for 0 and 1. Solving our equation for 0, when x equals 0, we get -2 times 0 minus y is greater than 1. -2 times 0 is 0. That leaves us with y is greater than 1. Now again, when we're solving for y, if we have a negative coefficient in front, we distribute that through the equation. And that causes our inequality sign to change or flip directions, so y is less than -1. I write -1 in my y column, and then I repeat the process for 1. When x equals 1, I have -2 times 1 minus y is greater than 1. That gives me -2 minus y greater than 1. Now I add 2 to both sides, which leaves me with -y is greater than 3. Finally, divide that negative coefficient of -1 throughout the equation. Y is less than -3, again flipping that inequality. So now we have 3 ordered pairs to graph on our coordinate grid. Our first ordered pair is -1, 1. So if I start at the origin, move left 1 and up 1, that's my first ordered pair, -1, 1. My next ordered pair is 0, -1. So I start at the origin and then move down 1. My third ordered pair is 1, -3. So I move right along the x-axis 1 unit and down along the y-axis 3 units. I've plotted my 3 points. Now I need to graph the line. In order to graph the line in an inequality, you need to know whether you're going to plot a dotted line or a solid line. If you're working with greater than or less than, it's a dotted line. That's not a very good one. We're plotting a dotted line. So that's what we'll do here. Rather than a solid line, we'll have a dotted or kind of a dashed line here. And there it is. The last thing we need to do is to shade our solution. In order to do that, I find the easiest way to proceed is to choose 0, 0 whenever possible and plug it into the original equation. To help find your solution through shading, you can use 0, 0 as your coordinate pair any time other than when our line passes through the origin itself. In this case, our line is passing just below the origin, so we are able to use these points. Anyway, I plug in a 0 for x and a 0 for y. That gives me 0 is greater than 1. Now we decide whether that's a true or false statement. Well, 0 is not greater than 1, so that's false. What that means is I need to shade the side of the equation opposite to the coordinate pair I picked for my test points. So if my test points were here at 0, 0, I'm going to shade the side of the line opposite. So this is our line, and here's our solution. We've completed this problem, and I hope that you've enjoyed the video.